I'm Sienna.
Oh no, I missed it. Okay, go ahead.
Hey, I'm Sienna.
And I'm Madison.
And you're listening. Hey, I'm Sienna.
And I'm Madison.
I'm sorry. Yelling at them.
That's really embarrassing. Okay, here we go.
Hi, I'm Sienna.
And I'm Madison.
And you're listening to the Just a Person podcast.
Hi everybody, welcome to Just a Person podcast, a show that explores life's highs, lows, and in-betweens. I'm Madison, and congrats, you've made it to our last guest of the season. This week and next week, we'll be talking to my cousin Sarah as she describes her lifelong struggle with medical issues, beginning with her first surgery at age 7, up till now her 27th surgery at age 31. She talks about being diagnosed with several illnesses and how she balances them while still living the life she wants. Thanks so much for listening and enjoy. Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
Sarah, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
So Sarah is my cousin, commonly mistaken as my aunt, my mom, my sister, my friend, self-proclaimed hero and my savior, my idol, as she likes to call herself, but just my cousin.
Wow, what a lovely opening.
All those are all very true.
She is my mom, my sister, my aunt, all of it.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to ask the question, the opening question out of the hat. Are you guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What is your absolute dream job?
Oh, gosh. This is the worst question for me personally.
I feel like this is going to like paralyze you with fear. You have no clue.
This is like my worst nightmare, being asked what do I want to do with my life. That is literally going to send me. I'm orbiting into a crisis right now. I am. Oh my gosh, what is my dream job? Okay, well, you guys definitely should start.
Sarah.
I went to college to become an athletic trainer. I just switched jobs from being at a high school to being at an orthopedic office, and I love it. So I guess ideally my dream job is to stay at home and do nothing.
Sure.
But if I had to go into the workforce, I'd be doing what I am now.
I was forced to work. Literally me. I guess my dream job, I would say, would be to just vibe.
What does that mean?
Ideally, I would love to like have a job where I can just sit outside all day in like a really pretty scenic place. Maybe able to read some books, talk to some cool people. I don't know if I can do that for a living, but ideally, that's what I would like to do.
Okay.
So take that for, I guess, what it is.
Sure. Figure that out for yourself. I think my dream job, and I've said this several times, is to get an ice cream truck, just drive it wherever I want to go. I love making ice cream. Did it for several years in the summer, and I would love to do that. That would be so fun.
That's not the answer I was expecting.
That's my that'd be the life for me, just to live out of an ice cream truck. Yeah
Dream lifestyle, living in the middle of nowhere.
Okay,
just in isolation.
There's nothing wrong with you today.
Honestly though. Anyways.
Okay, let's move on from that. Okay, so I think we're gonna be having Sarah as our last guest of the season. And Sienna, you might be wondering to yourself, why? Why do we save her for last?
That's a great question.
Well, because there's a lot going on here, okay? There's a lot in this story. So Sarah, why don't you just take us to the beginning?
All right. Well, I had a really good childhood. I had really supportive parents, really great extended family. That's how Madison and I are so close, and I do get I guess perceived as her mother a lot of times, and that makes me feel even older. But in the same case, I have great extended family, great parents, great siblings. And we're all very close. And we've always been that way. So as a child, probably since, as what my mom has told me, since I was born, I've had medical issues. I mean, I came out not breathing. I was tested for cystic fibrosis a couple weeks after I was born. Thankfully, I don't have that, but that was a question for them. And then probably starting when I was 7, I started having like abdominal issues and stomach issues. And that brought me to having a multitude of surgeries.
How many
day.
are we at? Like, there's a lot.
So as of March, I just had another one in March. I think I'm at 27.
Oh, wow.
And they range from knee surgeries to hip surgeries to a lot of abdominal a lot of abdominal surgeries.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like my stomach's kind of a cutting board at this point.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, I always thought it was normal. I thought it was normal that you went to the doctor, every month or every 2 months. And then people are like, no, I haven't been in the doctor in years. And I was like, what's wrong with you? So growing up, I thought that was a normal thing, but it's not.
I say that all the time to people. Like, if anyone in our family has a medical issue, it doesn't faze a single person. That no one cares. Like, if you're sick,
no one cares.
People care, but it's not like whoa, so shocking. Like, Sarah and I have logged so many hours just sitting in hospitals with people in our family for surgeries or whatever, whether it's her or somebody else. Like, it's not surprising at all.
Yeah, dang.
And I think that's weird. Like, I also didn't realize that until I started talking to other people.
Exactly.
Yeah, 27 is a lot. So you had your first surgery at 7?
At 7, yes. And I had my tonsils out. So it was pretty like normal, like little kid thing. The one that wasn't so normal was when I was 10, I had acid reflux really bad. Like, I mean, throwing up every other day. So they had to do surgery, and they cut me open. I mean, I had this long scar down the front of my stomach. When they did that and they went in, they found that my stomach was pushed to my back. So for the surgery, they needed my stomach obviously to where it needs to be, but then to tie it around the end of my esophagus to stop that reflux. But so they had to pull that to the front where it should be.
Wait, did they know that your stomach was there before going in, or is that just a little surprise? Like,
no, that was a little surprise for them.
Okay.
They had a nice little surprise when they got in. I think it was a 2-hour surgery, or supposed to be a 2-hour surgery. I ended up taking, I think, 6. And then I had an allergic reaction where I was pretty much dead at one point. My heart did stop.
During the surgery?
Yeah. Yep. Because of this allergic reaction. And so it took even longer. And so as you can, as you would assume, my parents were like, what is going on? Nobody's informing us. She's been in there for 6 hours. Like, how is this happening? And then finally after that, my doctor went and found them and was like, yeah, she had a little bit of an issue when we got in there. They're like, well, what kind of issue? I mean, and I think in so many words, he said, oh, she pretty much died and then came back.
Yeah. Her heart stopped. Did they have to resuscitate you, or did it just like restart?
They pumped more like antihistamines in to start it back up again. So it really wasn't like full on needed to CPR, that type of thing, but it was enough to be like, oh, well, her heart has stopped. And then once the medicine actually hit, then it started going again.
Wow. Did you have a reaction to the what's the word I'm looking for? Like was it the anesthesia?
No, actually it wasn't. It was so they give you, when you have surgery, they give you an antibiotic, and most of the time they give you like an over-the-counter pain reliever to kind of just start it off. Well, they gave me ibuprofen, which is a normal, like ibuprofen, Tylenol, those are all pretty normal. Well, that's the reaction I had from it, And so from that day on, he's like, do not let her have any type of ibuprofen or Motrin product. He's like, it will, send her into some anaphylactic shock. So since then, I haven't been able to take any type of anti-inflammatory drug, which is tough for having what I have now, is not being able to take that. So that was a big, probably my biggest surgery was that one, because then I was in the hospital for about 4 days after. I had like a stomach tube going down my nose and into my stomach to drain everything out. And yeah, so that's pretty intensive for a 10-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah. Was it, and like you said, was it supposed to be that like big of a surgery, or?
No, they knew it was going to be big because I was younger, and because they actually had to open me up. So that's more invasive versus like
a scope.
Yeah, like a scope, just having little incisions. So they knew that it was going to be a bigger surgery, but they had no idea that this is what they would see or they find out when they put me on the table.
Yeah, they would have to rearrange your organs, and that your heart would stop, and that.
Exactly.
Well, if we're gonna be honest here, that was pretty foreshadowing of the rest of Sarah's life up until this point. Just little nice surprises here and there like that.
Gosh.
So let's move on to middle school. Where are we at then?
Middle school. So by that point, how old are you in middle school?
Like 12 to 14. I don't know, something like that.
Okay, so I was probably at surgery number 5 or 6 at that point. My big one, I ended up like my scar kind of pulled apart, so I had a revision. So they went in and cut the scar to make a new one. So I had a couple revisions, so that made up a few surgeries. And then middle school, I would say, was halfway decent for me health wise. I mean, I had my normal health ones. I tried to play sports and had, the asthma that unfortunately like our whole family has. But I did play sports throughout middle school and felt pretty decent. High school was different. I mean, I tried to do sports, but I just couldn't. I had some heart issues, I guess, where I was put on different monitors for months at a time, and just to kind of see what was going on there, which they really never figured that out in high school. Let's just say in high school, they didn't do that. But probably my senior year of high school, supposed to be like the greatest year. You're going to have so much fun. I got so sick. I mean, to the point where I was like, and when I mean sick, I don't mean like throwing up or like a cold. I meant my body hurt. It was tired. Like I could just, after school, I'd literally go home and I'd fall asleep for hours. And finally, my mom and dad are like, what is going on? What is happening that you are feeling so terrible? And I went to a doctor, and he's like, no, you're fine. You're just stressed, all this different kind of stuff. I went to him probably 3 or 4 times. And by the 4th time, he was like, listen, this is all in your head. Like you got to stop thinking that something's wrong, all this different kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, well, maybe it really is.
Yeah. So I feel like if you have a medical professional telling you that, it kind of makes you doubt yourself. Like,
exactly.
Did they ever do anything though? Or he was just like, no, this isn't, like, he just listened to you and he was like, no, this isn't real?
Yes, that's pretty much what he did. I was lucky enough to have a teacher who was kind of going through the same thing as me. And I was really close to her because I did a lot of different extracurriculars. I was talking to her one day and she's like, oh, Sarah, she goes, I really think you need to go see a rheumatologist. I said, oh, geez, what is that? What is that going to entail? And she said, I think that you might have what I have, and it's called fibromyalgia. And I was like, what the heck? What is this? And they're like, well, there's no cure for it, but they can treat it. It's just kind of when your muscles in your body just hurt. There's really no rhyme or reason for it. So at the time, it was right when school started, my senior year. and I didn't turn 18 until October, and he didn't take anybody under 18. So I waited till I was 18 to go.
Is there a reason that they don't take people under 18?
I think because if it's a bigger rheumatology problem, then they want you to go to a pediatric.
Okay.
Who specializes in
like
it.
Children. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I was kind of in that middle space. I was in that middle ground of, okay, why don't I just wait?
Because you're not a child, but yeah, you're going to be an adult soon.
Yeah, exactly. So I waited till I was 18, and I went, and he was like, oh yeah, he did a whole bunch of tests. He moved my body around, and he did like these pressure points tests, and then called my mom in and was like, yeah, she has fibromyalgia, no doubt. There's pressure points that they push, and depending on the reaction you get from those pressure points will depend on that's kind of a test for if you have it. And she got 10 out of the 12. He's like, we're going to still do some blood work to see what's going on. And so she was like, okay, well, what do we do now? And he's like, well, there's really nothing other than anti-inflammatories that really help. And so, of course, I couldn't take those. So I was kind of stuck doing Tylenol, which is fine, but never really calmed anything down.
Is Tylenol, it has no anti-inflammatory properties?
Nope.
Okay. And that's what you really kind of need.
Yes, and that's what they really need, because your system's kind of on overload, and it's inflammation that kind of takes over. And I probably got that way because I wasn't taking anything when when I hurt myself in school or just stuff like that where I couldn't take that stuff. So he also did some blood work, and I had what they call a positive ANA. So he explained to me that he goes, okay, you have an autoimmune disease, but it hasn't shown itself yet. So I was like, oh, great. That's something I get to look forward
That's so
to.
scary. Like there's something coming, but it's not here yet.
Do they know what autoimmune disease is at all? Or are they just like sit back and wait and see?
Oh, stay tuned.
We're
getting to it.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So they did that test and that blood work, and so I kind of like freaked out, and I was like, what do I look for? And he's like, I just don't worry about it right now. He goes, it's just something that I've never had that blood test before. So I could have had it when I was, 7 years old, and just again, it hasn't shown itself. I started to feel a little bit better. I did go to college, and I lived there, but like just I wouldn't say normal stuff happened in college.
So earlier when I said Sarah would like try something and then there'd be like a fun little terrible surprise waiting around the corner. So Sarah did just randomly did rowing in college. She was on the rowing team, and she was like having a good time, all good. And then one day they get in a boat accident and she gets a concussion. Didn't you like break a bone or something else as well? You got hit with a paddle in the head.
Well, it hit me in like the back, and I broke a rib.
Hit your stomach.
Yeah, right.
Your stomach
right.
burst.
My stomach burst. No, I got it. Our practices were at like 5 a.m. And how I got into rowing, I saw a brochure, and they're like, no experience needed. And I was like, oh, cool.
Perfect.
Like I can do this. And it was probably the hardest, but most gratifying thing I have ever done in my life. It was so fun, but it was intense. Like we practiced all year round, whether it was on the water or on like a rowing machine. Like you had to get certain times on the rowing machine. And then we would have, competitions. We would go, and like in the fall was like our long distance ones. And then in the spring was like your sprints is what we called it. So like you were going at a fast pace for a long time. So, I mean, that's where I had a great time, but yes, the boats got too close, and their oar, I was in the back, and their oar got caught on my back, which broke my rib.
Caught on my back.
Yeah, and like stopped their boat. And it stopped our boat as well. And then yeah, like kind of flung my head back, and like I like hit it on the side of the boat. So that was fun.
Yes, just
that was
a broken
interesting
rib.
for real. But and then I would have done it throughout college, but of course, here's a little another surprise. As I towards the end of the year, I dislocated my shoulder doing it. I don't know how. And then I ended up having surgery that summer on my shoulder to kind of tighten everything up. And there started my heart issues, I guess, kind of eased into that. And like my heart rate was so high. They're like, what is going on with this? That they couldn't get it down.
What was it beating at, kind of?
So for probably a year after that happened, my resting heart rate was about 160.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's like you're in the middle of running high.
Yeah, exactly. And so we went to a couple different cardiologists, and then they sent me to an electrophysiologist who really took a dive into my history and everything like that. And they're like, yeah, we need to stop this. And I was like, yeah, because I can barely function because my heart's going so fast. It's like I just ran a marathon.
And plus, I'd be nervous if you're like working out. Would it get even higher? Like, can it get dangerously high? I don't think it's not supposed to go above what it's like 220 minus your age. I think that's how you calculate it. You're like maximum.
Yes, essentially. Yeah. And I was already at that, like just walking.
Yeah.
So they're like, no, like for that whole year, they're like, we can't have you going, and working out and doing all that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, great. So that took out the rowing part of it. So I wasn't allowed to row anymore. But I probably went like that for a good year and a half, because I think I was a junior in college.
Just with your heart rate being that high?
Yep, because they had to try. Obviously, you want to try different medications first to see if that can drop it.
Mm-hmm.
And then go from there. And my doctor's like, no, this has gone on too long. The medicine isn't working. We're just going to do a cardiac ablation.
Is that not kind of damaging to your heart, though, to have it go on for so long like that?
Yeah. It just, the muscle, I mean, it's a muscle. It gets tired.
What's a cardiac ablation?
So a cardiac ablation, I had that my junior year of college, and they go in through your groin. This was after a couple different heart catheterizations where they also go in through your groin just to look at your vessels and the different parts of your heart to make sure there's nothing anatomically wrong with it.
Mm-hmm. And they didn't find anything?
They didn't find anything.
Okay. So I guess at this point, did they have any idea what was causing it, or was it still a mystery?
Pretty much what they called it was inappropriate sinus tachycardia. So my sinus node was doing things it wasn't supposed to.
Okay.
So they said, we will go in, and what they do is they burn a little bit of your sinus node. So they're burning your heart. So they go in through your groin and go up, and they can't put you to sleep because your heart rate will drop, and they need to see how, like, where you're at and then how it's going to affect you once they burn it.
So basically she's awake and they're burning her heart.
Essentially.
Through her groin to her heart, burning it, trying to kill, like, are they just trying to make it makes it slow down, basically? Like, are they trying to kill off some of the...
They're trying to make scar tissue.
Okay.
And with that scar tissue, that will help it to slow down. So they went in and they burnt it, and I felt it. You literally feel like
you're burning
a heartburn
from the inside out.
Literally heartburn. Like it. And then once they saw the reaction of it, which it dropped immediately, then they could put me under to do the rest of it. So I had to be awake till that point, and then they put me under so that they could look around to make sure everything was all right, and then be able to actually pull the catheter out and do all that kind of stuff, because that obviously was painful. But yeah, for that couple 30 seconds where they were burning the actual part of my heart,
You're just sitting like or laying down and just
yeah, I'm just laying there, and like you have oxygen on, and you really, because they're like, don't move, and we're like, yeah, because you're gonna burn my heart right now. Like, this is not okay.
yeah, you have to probably be laying so still, because obviously you don't want to move and them to like burn anything they shouldn't be burning, but also you're terrified and it probably hurts.
Exactly. Oh yeah, and like I did really well. I stayed as still as I could, didn't even move. Like they were asking me questions, and I kind of like just looked at them, and then I had like tears rolling down my face, and the guy was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. We're almost done. Like he felt like, because I obviously was trying to be as still as I could be, and all I had were like these tears coming down.
Yeah.
And they're almost done, and then they're like, right when he goes, right when he's done, I'm gonna put you under. And I said, okay.
Thank God.
Yeah, that's what I needed at that point. And then I think I was in there for probably an hour longer. But
so if you could tell, the problems are kind of migrating north on her in her body. So when do you go to the Mayo Clinic, and why?
Wait, I guess hold on. Could we go back at this point? What has happened to like all the other issues? Have they kind of resolved that you were experiencing when you were younger in like the middle school and that early high school ones?
no, so they're still there, other than like my surgery correcting like my acid reflux. That was good. That's been something that's kind of been steady throughout.
So no more stomach problems at that point. You had your appendix out at one point, probably your gallbladder, right? So
yes.
like, whatever.
Yeah. So throughout, maybe I think in middle school I had my gallbladder out because it was just like burning.
Sure.
And then in high school, when I was a junior, I got really sick and actually had appendicitis for like a week. Like I finally went to my surgeon, the one who has done all the previous ones. And I was like, something's not right. I'm in so much pain. And he goes, okay, do you want to go to the hospital tonight or meet me there tomorrow morning? And I was like, I said, okay, tomorrow morning. And when I get in there for that, he's like, if we would have waited another day, this would have burst and you'd have been full of infection.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, so all that, so non-vital organs are out at this point.
Okay. Were you still feeling really like sleepy and like how you said, or just like really sick?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I still felt like my body just hurt. Like it just was like constant muscle aches. And they're like, oh, exercise will help. So I did exercise after I had the ablation. I started exercising again, not anything crazy because I wasn't supposed to, just kind of like, because they're like, once your blood gets flowing, all this different kind of stuff, you'll feel better, which I did. And I mean, I too wanted to go to school to be a doctor, but with all of that stuff going on through college, I couldn't take the stress of like the hard classes and all that kind of stuff. So I really, my sophomore year, I really reevaluated what I wanted to do with my life. I still wanted to be a healthcare professional of some sort. So I went the route of athletic training, which is pretty intense program, but it was something that like I got into the program as an undergrad, and then you do the 2 years, and if you pass through that, then you take your boards and all that kind of stuff, and you can work after college. And that's what I got into the first couple like intro classes, and I really enjoyed what I was doing. And I've always liked sports. I was never very good at them, but my sister was, so I watched her do all of this. And I was like, hey, I can do this. I can watch sports and be with injuries and all that kind of stuff too. So that's the kind of where I went with that, because of what was going on in my body. Technically, I always felt like, hey, I'm a 21-year-old, but I have a 90-year-old body, was essentially what it felt like all the time. So where are we at our timeline?
So let's just skip.
Yes.
So we're after college.
Yeah.
After your heart has been ablazed.
Yeah. After that,
Yes.
Did anything like big happen soon after that?
No.
Okay.
No.
So then you went to the Mayo Clinic. for some reason.
And this is post-college.
No. This
Oh,
was in
is
college.
in college.
This
I
is
thought
still
this
in
was
college.
after
Okay.
college. Okay. Is this after the heart surgery? Though?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we're lucky enough to have a cousin who was a doctor at the Mayo Clinic. And she literally made all my appointments that she thought I needed and like arrangements for us to get there, which was great. So I still was feeling like crap. I was so tired. They're like, well, maybe something's still going on with your heart. So, I mean, I went to a rheumatologist and a cardiologist, an endocrinologist, all at Mayo. They make all these appointments like right in a row with different tests. And that whole 3 or 4 days, I was exhausted because of the testing and the doctor's appointments and kind of all that. But the one that really got me was they needed to check the way my sweat pattern was. So what they do is you're naked, you take your clothes off, and they put this powder on you, this orange powder all over you. And then they put you in a hot box and they make you sweat. And so they want to see what areas of your body are either sweating really, profusely or not sweating at all. And so I was in there for quite a long time. I mean, I sweat pretty easy, but my fingers and my toes would not sweat. They kept on turning the heat up and up and up. And finally I like waved my hand. I said, I can't do this anymore. This is way too hot for me. And I had been in there for like a half hour. And so they have to take pictures and be like, okay, this is the sweat pattern, all this different kind of stuff. But after that, nothing really came of the Mayo Clinic appointment. They thought I had what's called POTS. So postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So depending on how my, like if it was sitting down versus standing up versus laying down, they thought that all of my symptoms pointed to that. And so I did what they told me to do, dietary restrictions, all that kind of stuff. Increasing salt intake apparently really helps level everything out. I did all that and I still was feeling super crappy. On my way home from the Mayo Clinic, I pretty much passed out on the plane. I was exhausted. I literally felt like my body was numb and I just like slumped over. And from what I remember, they got me like, it was fine on the plane. Like I was breathing and everything and nobody really freaked out because you're on a plane and you're passed out. But when we got off the plane, like my mom ran and got a wheelchair and they wheeled me out to the car and they're like, do we need to bring you to the emergency room? And I was like, no, I really just want to go home and go to bed. And I think when I got home, I think I slept for like 2 days. And I still woke up and I felt terrible. Like my body just is like, I was like, what is going on? Like my body just feels like crap.
Yeah. I guess this entire time, did you have any thoughts on what was happening? Like, did you have any guesses or?
Honestly, I didn't, because I was like, I don't understand. Like every diagnosis that they gave me, I felt was, appropriate at the time. Right now, looking back, I was like, oh, I should have, like this stuff should have triggered, some different mindset of, hey, maybe you should look more into this. But like at the time I was like, oh yeah, like finally got a diagnosis.
Like these things fit, like, yeah, because I feel like all types of diseases can show themselves in like so many different ways. So sometimes when you get a diagnosis and some of them fit, some of them might not make sense, but you're like, it could be like expressing itself a bit differently with me. And I feel like you seem like you have so many different like symptoms. Like,
yeah,
it's hard to pinpoint.
It was crazy, but I still was like, okay, I'm going to give it a try because at this point I was willing to try anything. Like I just wanted to, like at that point I was 22 and I was like, I really just want to get on with my life. Like I want to live like other 22-year-olds live. But I, kept doing that again, still like very tired, all that kind of stuff for a couple more years. I was like, I don't want to do anything. I want everything to calm down so that I can finish school. I want to graduate and I want to go to my internship. And I went out of state for my internship for probably 3 months. Again, I was doing what I was supposed to do, but felt like crap. And so finally when I came home from my internship, it wasn't like, I don't know, a couple months maybe. And I was like, I need to go to the doctor. Like I had switched doctors from the one before, and went to this new doctor that thankfully my sister, because she's a nurse, she was working for.
Like her regular, just a regular doctor, like that you see
Yeah.
normally.
Yep. He was actually an internist. So they thought that maybe with all my issues that I needed someone a little more in tune with deeper things other than just a family physician you go to for a cold or whatever. So I went to him, and my symptoms that brought me there were like, I was starting to see like double vision, and I was getting terrible headaches because of it. And I was like, at this point I go, oh my God, I have a brain tumor. Like that has to be it. That has to be what's causing everything. Like it's a brain tumor. So I go to the doctor and I tell him my symptoms, and he's kind of like asking me different questions. And he goes, hey, do you get numbness or, tingling? And I said, oh yeah, well, my right side, like my leg and stuff will go numb. And he's like, well, isn't that something you should tell your doctor? And I was like, well, yeah, but it's been happening for so long. I guess it didn't even pop into my head. And so like right away he ordered an MRI. He's like, we need to see what's going on. So I got the MRI, and I don't know, probably 2 or 3 days after that, he wanted me to come into the office. And I was like, oh gosh, this is where he's going to tell me I have a brain tumor. Like I'm downhill. Like this is the end, like freaking out. So I made my sister-in-law go with me, because obviously my sister's already there. And he, brought me in the room, and he goes, okay, we did find some stuff on the MRI. And at that point you're like, okay, yep, just tell me what I have to do.
Like, this is it for me.
Thanks so much again to Sarah for being the guest on our show today, and tune in next week for part 2 of this series. If you have a story you want to personally share on the show or want us to read on air, find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at JustAPersonPod, or send us an email at justapersonpod@gmail.com.